We're dangerously derailed.
And I fucking hate Captain America.
Give me the links! Give me the links! Yeah, we're doing the Avengers next, and I imagine it's just going to be a big circle jerk. What the fuck is wrong with us? Hail Hydra!
Thor, directed by Kenneth Branagh.
Is that what we're here to talk about? 50 minutes in. This is the Infinity Warmup podcast. Trey, how you doing, man?
Last week you let me talk over the audio track that we introduced for Ant-Man. And you didn't edit it out. You just let me be a jackass all over our first attempt at introducing a foreign feed to it. You're forgiven, though.
What are you talking about? You're ruining the show.
Just normally that kind of laziness won't stand. But
what kind of intro
it's a one-off.
Are you trying to pull here, mister?
I am Trey. This week we're doing Captain America Civil War. Spoiler alert, is probably one of our favorites. But we'll get into the nitty-gritty of it. This film is directed by the Russo brothers, formerly known for their television credits in Community, but they did the last Captain America movie, Winter Soldier, so they have a proven track record, and they're going to do the Infinity War movie, because as many characters as this movie has, Infinity War is going to have so much more, and I'm glad these guys know how to juggle multiple characters.
Yeah, they're doing a really good job of it, man. This is the first movie introducing Phase 3, and already it seems like they're kicking ass.
Yes, very much so. Before we dive into the fun of it, how much are you familiar with Civil War in the comic books? Do you know much of what this? They're using a tentative outline. For the comics, but are you familiar with any of the source material?
No, and I guess you're gonna have to school me and the audience.
I mean, it's kind of the same, but in the comic books, there's more of an emphasis on unmasking different superheroes. Because everybody's identity in the movies is sort of already well known. Like Tony Stark came out in the first one saying, "I am Iron Man." We already know who Steven Rogers is. While Banner is on the run and Thor is a god from Asgard, they're not really in this movie. So secret identities as far as like protecting your family and your friends from people with revenge plots against you, that's not such a big thing in the movies. So instead they focus more on the Sokovia Accords as opposed to a registration act.
You're right, they did focus on the Accords. Yeah, that was a big part, 117 parts actually, but and what was most important was the font. Apparently, here's what I'm thinking. So every time they showed like new information, like, oh, they're in this country now, or it's this year, right? And that happened a lot. They went to a bunch of different countries. I can't remember a lot of them. I've never heard of most of them.
They went to Lagos. They went to Bucharest. Bucky's arrest.
All these
they
weird
went to
places.
the present day, and then in 1991.
The present day, which is important to... will be important in the future if they decide to keep making Marvel movies. But you know what? Doesn't that sound like... You're jumping to one of my points. Check this out. If you use information like present day in a series of movies where they're going off actual dates, like, okay, in 69, in what's this movie? What's the year they focus on a lot? 1991.
Yeah, that's when the assassination happened. Yeah.
You have to tell us what fucking year you're in right now, because present day might mean something different 20 years from now if you're still making Thor movies. I assume you'd like to be. Right, but present day doesn't mean anything if these stories happen all the years later. Are they going to still tie in? Like the TV
I see
shows?
what you're saying. You're arguing on behalf of our listeners from 20 years from now.
Yeah,
but I think
it's like Disney doesn't believe in itself. But okay, so every time they showed like some words on the screen, like this is what country they're in, it took up. Let me do this real quick. This much of the goddamn screen. It was ridiculous. Mm-hmm. I couldn't see the background. The first time when they showed what's her name, like stirring up the tea, what's Scarlet Witch, like I was just like, boom, like this is where the fuck they are. I was like, I can't see anything else But
Yeah,
this
it's-
word, you could reduce it like by 32 font, and it'd be fine. There's background. I want to see what you're trying to show on the screen
It was
instead of
pretty
your cheap
spectacular.
ass font. Dude, you know how much like wasted detail of like CG and shit like that
Not
over
wasted.
font. Font
I would
costs
not have known.
nothing. There's font on this right now. Everyone's watching this. That didn't cost me millions of dollars. It cost me like
Hey,
$200.
that's
Actually,
they
this is free software I'm using. Thanks, OBS Studio.
They just took the font side and cranked it up to I don't know, however.
They did that like
IMAX.
9 times. I counted 9 times.
I don't. Well, I just don't think it costs money. is what
That's
I'm
what
saying.
I'm saying. It's wasted effort. Like,
Wasted.
it's
Yo,
costing the
I did
screen.
not know we were in Cleveland until they told me we were in Cleveland. All right.
yeah, but you could have put it like maybe like 10% of the screen down at the bottom instead of putting it across the entire 1991.
Some baby back bullshit. You go big. Yeah, it's like
I'm
they saw
sorry.
James Gunn title card in Guardians of the Galaxy and
That
said, "Hold my
worked.
beer. let's go bigger on
That
this."
worked.
This movie opened not alongside of Batman v Superman, a movie in which you've only seen once, even though you're the bigger DC head amongst us. And I've been sort of restraining myself as far as DC hatred goes, and I feel like this is the best opportunity I'll have because during Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice production sequence, they kept shifting the date around to do reshoots and whatever else they had to do to make it a presentable movie. It initially landed on the release date for Civil War, which was May 6, 2016, and they were playing a game of chicken for a bit until Batman v Superman decided to release in March. I don't have the final numbers on the DC film, but I believe Civil War definitely beat it out in the box office, and it definitely has more critical acclaim than Batman v Superman. But I think what's important to this is the similarity of the story structure between Batman v Superman and this movie, to the point where it has a lot of the same plot points that they're trying to hit, but obviously done in much poorly. You know what I'm saying? Like Lex Luthor is sort of akin to Zemo, and that they're both unpowered guys trying to manipulate superheroes into fighting each other. So that
I like how that's how we describe them, unpowered guys. Like, I'm right there with you. I'm glad that that's how we describe the bad guy. Oh, they're unpowered.
well,
Just a bad guy.
I guess criminally genius people. Although Baron von
But he
Zemo
has
has
no-
like a special training from Sokovian Secret Service, whereas Lex Luthor is essentially just Steve Jobs. But I mean, that's not even the end of the comparison. There's a lot going on with mothers, and
But I think some of the movie kind of. Are we talking about just the villain comparison or the overall movie?
the overall movie, it's very similar in tone as to what they're trying to achieve. And granted, Batman v Superman is much sloppier in the way they go about
thank you.
doing it.
I was going to say something to that equivalent just now.
Yeah. But any thoughts on Batman v Superman? No, you really don't care.
I
about
honestly
that
don't
film.
remember. I mean, I remember.
It keeps me up at night, man. It's a bad movie.
How many times have you seen this?
I mean, it's such a train wreck that I try to revisit it at least like once a year or so, just to see where it went
Been out
wrong.
for like 2 years. You've seen it what, 3 times?
I've seen it 3 times.
You act
It's
like there's this long history of every anniversary. I've
That is-
watched it since 1985.
It just sticks with me because there's only so many times you can for me it was the that they did the death of Superman inside of this Dark Knight movie, because that should be incredibly impactful. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean,
Killing Superman on the big screen.
a movie starring 2 superheroes and one of them dies.
Well, not just one of them dies. Like, Superman is the superhero, better than any, or more recognizable than any Marvel superhero. And the fact that
what?
Yeah, no, Superman easy. Like, I'm a Marvel homer, but I'm willing to admit that Superman is the iconic superhero
I guess,
of
I
this
see what you're
generation,
saying.
previous generations. Yeah. So for them to fumble it in such spectacular fashion really bummed me out. So I like revisiting what went wrong with the film every time I can. You know. I really enjoy the Captain America movies, you know? They do such a good job at tearing down the established MCU with every with the last two Captain America outings. You know, Winter Soldier took apart S.H.I.E.L.D., introduced us to Hydra, and now Civil War has broken up the Avengers.
I feel like that's unfair to call this a Captain America movie, though.
It very much focuses on Captain America.
Does it?
I mean, it could just as easily be a sequel to Iron Man, but this is a very personal story.
It's very pertinent to the villain. That's why it just happens to be his villain. If it was one of Iron Man's villains, it would be totally played out differently.
No, Bucky Barnes is still very much a villain throughout this film, and this is very much a story about Captain America and his bromance with his pal Bucky Barnes.
That's what I'm saying.
What? No, that's what I'm saying. You're saying that it's not a Captain America movie.
Well, okay, fine. I guess that makes it. Okay. I feel like it's because look, Thor goes off and has his own fucking problems and shit. He doesn't have Iron Man show up. He doesn't have anybody come help support his movie. That's why I feel like it's like most of these scenes have a shit ton of characters in them. Is it really a Captain America movie? Like, the other movies seemed very Captain America-ish. Look at all the Avengers in that movie. What, 2, 3? This one has like 19.
It does have the majority of the roster, but the narrative crux of the film focuses largely on Captain America. And I do have to give a shout out to Brad Barnes from the Marvel Cinematic Universe Facebook page. I posted on there regarding characters and teams that they would like to see in the wake of Civil War, because like I said, the comic book introduced a lot of it took all the money out of my account for literally 2010 and beyond, and I had to stop with Brand New Day. But Joe Quesada, Marvel's editor-in-chief, did a great job at tying in pretty much every existing MCU comic book into the stories surrounding Civil War, both before and after, with House of M, Decimation, into Civil War, and then even a little bit afterward with Skrulls and all manner of whatnot. But this guy Brad Barnes on Facebook thinks that this would be a great opportunity to introduce the Thunderbolts into the MCU, and I think that would be a great way to bring all the Netflix characters into the cinematic side of the universe. Because I don't know if you're too familiar with the Thunderbolts from the comic books, but they were introduced to round up all the wayward superheroes that did not agree to the Registration Act, or in this case, the Sokovia Accord. So for everybody that went rogue and did not end up on the raft, the floating prison in the middle of the Pacific, or wherever that's held, then you have to send a Suicide Squad, if you will, after these people. And I think that would be a great way to have like Daredevil face off against like a Deadpool or a Taskmaster.
Who says Suicide Squad though? That's because in DC that's very like that's a team of like villains. Right, so this one, it's not villains; it's people, it's heroes.
Thunderbolts is predominantly villains. Dr. Octopus was on the team. C-list guys like the Wrecking Ball and stuff like that.
I thought you told me Daredevil was on the team.
No. I think that would be a good way to bring Daredevil into the MCU by going after him, since he's not signing up with the government. He very much wants to keep his secret identity and be free to operate as a Captain America-esque free agent. So people like him are not going to sign these Sokovia Accords. So you have to find people, specifically vigilant or villains under contract, independent contractors, if you were to round up these wayward heroes. You know, there have been a litany of characters who've played Thunderbolts in the past. I liked him the most when it was Norman Osborn in charge of him, but Bullseye's been on the team. Radioactive Man, who was that? Veronica Hand, I believe, from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Radioactive Man? That dude from the one movie we saw earlier? Was it Iron Man 3 or?
I don't know if the Chinese Radioactive Man made an appearance, but Venom was on the team. Taskmaster's always been a focal point.
He's the one who like can just mimic your fighting style? Essentially,
yeah. So I mean, there's your group of expendable bad guys that are pretty legit. Also, Zemo himself was on the Thunderbolts.
That's what, the leader?
Yeah.
I feel like he just set up a bomb 2 times, right?
Yeah.
Black Panther's pretty funny in this movie, right? Everybody get down!
Why would you choose the part where his father gets murdered to illustrate the humor behind Black
I didn't
Panther?
Illustrate anything. Does he pick an accent or does that dude sound like that?
I don't believe Chadwick Boseman talks like an African royal in real life. But I just like how every time he talked, he like you could hear the music swelling in his head as he steered off into the distance to monologue about his origin story. The Black Panther has been a mantle passed down for generation to generation. Who are you talking to right now, man? He's not making any eye contact. He's just staring out the window.
He was being way too cool for that. Like, he let like 15 to 30 seconds pause after they asked him a bunch of questions, and then he answered it the way he wanted to.
So for this podcast, I want to break it down along ideological lines. I know you're a bit of an Iron Man homer, but I think you're a little bit more anti-government, anti-oversight than me. Ideologically, where would you describe your position? Teams aside, Captain America and Iron Man aside, how do you feel that if superheroes existed today, should they be able to operate autonomously and without any oversight, free to go where they please to wreck shit, kick ass, and take names? Or should it be, on paper that you send LeBron James to this country to extract this guy and all that?
I think this whole what do they call it? Accords Registration Act?
Sokovia
Accords is stupid. I think just because you came up with the solution possibly to your problem doesn't mean it's the best solution. These guys, they proved it in the first Avengers movie in New York, where they just saved the world from an alien invasion. There's no proof that the Avengers caused that to happen, so they just showed up to save the world out of nowhere when...
Yeah, but that was a bit of a one-off thing, like Fellowship of the Ring style. Like, once you get the ring into Mordor, there's no more reason to have all these crazy people living under the same mansion in New York.
Nick Fury pointed it out in another movie. Like, you think this is going to be the first or last? I mean, obviously the first, but the last time this happens, we got to be ready for this shit. And I mean, clearly they're throwing this in for the Infinity War, where this guy's going to come by with his gauntlet, plug about 6 stones in there, and just wipe out existence.
Understandable, but
maybe we should be a little bit worried. But the guy is okay. Like, I think at this point we can't come back to our registration like of super beings. These guys are so powerful. There's no like, unless we get like Dr. Hank Pym, there's no shrinking them the power of the Hulk down to putting it in a prison cell. When he goes Hulk, that's it. Like, so like, why even try to fuck with that guy? He's on this different level of existence, and so is Thor. And it's just like, and you guys down here, the regular people, the guy of I guess they're not S.H.I.E.L.D. anymore, but whatever, the Secretary of State, that like they're on this lower level. This guy can't do shit without his army. He's just a human, and he's like 65, 70 years old. Shut the fuck up and listen to Thor.
But,
Save the fucking planet, dude. Like, you can't try to like be like, all right, I'm in charge of you. No, you're not. You're not. I'm gonna leave the planet now. Heimdall, boom. What are you gonna do? And why? You guys, you're fucking around trying to care. Like, you can't try to. The images that they showed in this movie in their defense was like Hulk smashing around the buildings. Okay, understandable. But those things coming from the sky, who's going to stop that? If the Avengers weren't there, who's going to stop that? The cops? The army? Oh yeah, they're going to close that fucking portal. Like, I get that they should probably, you know, give some information to the government that says this is exactly what happened. There was this weird thing with magic and we closed the portal and yada yada yada. To give them something to tell everybody, I suppose, but you can't. It's beyond our control. So it's like, how are we going to try to act like, oh, we don't like it? Like, you got to stand in line with us. You're equal to us. It's the same thing they did in Hancock. I didn't like that shit either. I was like, this guy just jumps out of the prison. He's like, I'm gone. I'm not here anymore. Fuck prison. That means you can't contain him. Just fucking let him do his thing.
But it doesn't mean that you shouldn't try. And it seems like you're hedging your bets a little bit, whereas Captain America is arguing on behalf of free reign, literally, to have all the decisions be made in-house, and his distrust for SHIELD, which turned into Hydra. So I could see where he's a little bit skeptical. But he doesn't want any kind of oversight from the Secretary of State, and completely flat out disagrees with the Soviet Accords. And he raised the argument that he said earlier of what if they want us to go somewhere where, you know, we don't think we should be, or what if we want to go somewhere and they try to stop us? So like, I kind of understand that argument, but like, it's almost the same, and not to make it too political, thing that we're doing with gun control, whereas like, just because it's hard to stop it doesn't mean that we shouldn't try. You know, just because it's difficult to contain a gang of superpowered being doesn't mean that you shouldn't try to make some sort of legislation against their more impulsive or dangerous impulses. Kind of like what the Vision says, like, that since our inception, there have been a commiserate rise of world-threatening events, you know? So yeah, oversight is not something that can be dismissed offhand.
I think we need to divide this up with where I stand, which is on Captain America's side. But at the same time, if I'm going to choose to be on anybody's team, like if I want to win, as far as like my team versus your team, I think Iron Man.
There are no winners in a civil war, Jay. It's just always sad. It's the end of an era. It's depressing.
I think you're wrong. I think War Machine, I think he lost that battle.
Specifically, one guy got his ass jacked up. Yeah, let's continue this ideological debate. But first, let's give people a little bit of context for what we're talking about. So I'm going to start with the summary here. After another incident, goddamn Avengers, after another incident involving the Avengers results in collateral damage, we'll talk about that opening scene, political pressure mounts to install a system of accountability headed by a governing body to oversee and direct the team. This new status quo fractures the Avengers, resulting in two camps. One, led by Steve Rogers and his desire for the Avengers to remain free to defend humanity without any government interference. The others follow Tony Stark's decision to support government oversight and accountability. During negotiations for the Sokovia Accords, the Winter Soldier is framed for an attack that results in the death of the King of Wakanda, leaving the divided Avengers to resolve the issue while trying to find common ground. Did I miss anything?
No, that was about as long as the goddamn movie, dude. The movie was only 2.5 hours. But it's two and a half.
It's the longest film to date.
Yeah, I think you're. I don't know. Well, okay, we're not including Hulk.
I think we are, but yeah, no. Under the current MCU, this might be the longest film, and it's very tight. Like they had to cram so much into it, and just from the movie making standpoint of it, as far as wedging all kinds of characters, like this featured a huge amount of characters, and then they introduced 2 new ones with Black Panther and borrowing Spider-Man from Sony, into a much more fluid and understandable and digestible movie, more so than Avengers Age of Ultron under Joss Whedon. So that's credit to the Russo brothers.
Spider-Man, like, he was so badass in this movie.
Do you want to say best Spider-Man? First of all, worst Spider-Man is Andrew Garfield, right? So is he better than Tobey Maguire?
I don't really. Andrew Garfield, I liked the first one. Are you kidding me?
What? No, I hated him every time. He was like,
well, okay, you talking about Peter
Spider-Man.
Parker or Spider-Man?
Yeah. Well, okay. The visuals under Andrew Garfield were helped a lot by it being the year 2014 instead of whatever that the Tobey Maguire one came out 2003 or something. So yeah, like I think the web slinging,
like 2001, I think.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So I think visually, Spider-Man. Honestly, I will say that I even like the visuals over Tom Holland Spider-Man. I like Andrew Garfield, the way he moves around more than I like this new Spider-Man. This applies to Homecoming as well. I thought his movements were like really jerky and just didn't look as fluid as how they made him look in The Amazing Spider-Man. That being said, I think his Peter Parker is an asshole. I think he's the biggest douche.
I have to watch that movie again. That's another movie I've seen only once. I wasn't the biggest fan of it. Well, there's kind of there's just some things like that their abilities they're removing from the character, and I'm not in love with that idea. I think it's like, what the fuck? Why are you doing this? What is your point in like he doesn't have a spider sense? It seems like.
Ooh, stop saying he. No pronouns. Who are you talking about? Yeah, which one?
Oh, I'm
Tom
sorry.
Holland?
In this movie, no, in this movie, yeah. So is that his name?
He did.
Tom Holland?
When Bucky Barnes threw the thing at him from the airport, his eyes got all wide. He said, "What the?" Turned around.
Wait, no, like he gets it from the suit, right?
No.
I'm pretty.
I don't
You're
think
not
so.
serious. I'm pretty sure this Spider-Man does not have
anything about the suit in this movie, but you got the sense that without turning around, he knew that a door was flying at his face. So yeah.
Yeah, that and the whole, and like, what's the deal with saying I have to wear these goggles so my senses are too heightened, I can't see? It's like, is that the same for spiders? Can they not? Do they need goggles too? I don't understand. Is it the half human part that's fucking him up? Like, what is going on, and why are you telling us? Why do we care? Why couldn't he just had a shitty costume? He needed goggles.
Tony Stark asked him.
Well, okay,
what are these for?
If he's saying he can't focus, like he can't focus what? Like, so when he's walking around as Peter, can he not focus?
Well, you get the sense that, like Daredevil, everything is heightened. So his visuals are a little askew, and the glasses help him concentrate while he's flipping through the air.
That last part I get. The first part, no.
No? Well,
what's wrong with his vision?
He sees everything all Quicksilver status, only significantly less that.
Fast?
Well, just in crystal clear data. Don't ask me to explain this, but I imagine it's incredibly. It's you remember those infomercials for those crazy sunglasses that just amplified everything? It's like that. He's seeing in 40/20. You know, it's a problem.
I just thought, I don't know, the spider sense caused it. It should be okay with it. Like, what? It's not normal to be a Spider-Man, is what I'm saying.
Sure.
Fine. If that's your argument, then I agree. Let's move on.
All right. Do you? All right. Let's go down everyone's reasons for being on the particular side that they're on, and I think we could touch on plot points for the movie and doing that.
You have a lineup of the characters?
Yes, I do.
Let's do it.
representing Team Captain A is the Winter Soldier, and of course he sort of has no choice but to side with Captain America, mainly because and this is why it's a Captain America movie, but they're on a mission to stop the rest of the Bucky Barneses. There's a bunch of Winter Soldiers out there, and apart from the Civil War aspect of it, apart from the Sokovia Accords, Captain America, Steve Rogers does not believe that Tony Stark is going to believe him or the Winter Soldier enough to take this threat as serious as Captain America does. So him and Winter Soldier are paired. And Falcon, it just seems, is tagging along because he's just powwows with Captain A. This is what was weird for me because Falcon has a military career as like a pararescue, superhero gliding around in a Falcon suit, but rescuing people for the military. So it seems strange to me that he's 100% down with not signing up for a government organization, which he's not particularly, he doesn't feel jilted by.
What did he do though? Okay, rescue, like that dude already knows how to be a badass, flying ass, motherfucking ass, like. There's no scenes in any of these movies of him training. I guess I have to take that back because of Ant-Man. No, he wasn't training. He spotted him on the field. Yeah, so you assume this guy already knows how to be a badass. I mean, plus who's making all those weapons that he's using? Like, I know personally that him as a character, like, he's really smart, like Tony Stark, and kind of makes his own things. But I feel like
Falcon?
Yeah.
No, I'm under the impression that his new bird, Redwing, which is an actual bird in the comics, so I found it really cool that they turned it into a drone. Like I thought that was neat that they'd much easier to train than having an actual falcon on your shoulder. Go ahead, he's cute. But no. I thought that all those upgrades to his suit that he had, that was 100% Tony Stark. Because in Winter Soldier, you just saw him mainly using the wings. Like, he was useless without them. He said when Winter Soldier, when Bucky, like, fucked up one of his wings, he said, "I'm grounded. I'm out of this fight." And then proceeded to have a fist fight with Crossbones
for the rest of the movie. He's a really good fighter, right?
Yeah, no, I agree he's a good fighter, but he's also a government operative. So I found it weird that just because he's buddies with Captain A, that he immediately goes anti-registration or anti-Sokovia Accords.
I suppose he did just kind of fall in line. I don't know. He had his own argument, but at the same time, I kind of thought he would side with Cap anyway. Is that what happens in the comics, Mr. I read the comics?
I don't really remember where Falcon sat. Well, it's just Ed Brubaker was doing a Captain America run while Civil War was happening, and a lot of it has to do with him, but I don't remember what the periphery characters of Sharon Carter, Falcon, and Winter Soldier, what they were up to during the Civil War comic books. So sorry. I mean, I understand why the rest of Captain America's team side with him. Scarlet Witch does not like being locked in a room. Hawkeye owes Scarlet Witch a favor for her brother dying for him in the last movie, and Scott Lang's just a criminal. So yeah, that makes up Captain's team, but Falcon's a weird one to me.
Well, it seems so much. I guess it's because they're in New York and, like, I don't know, in the city part. But it seems so much easier in X-Men movies where they're just like, "Hey, you're fucking weird. Like, you want to come over here? We have this whole, like, giant field where we can just train you, and you can learn how to use your powers better." Like, that's what we need to do with Scarlet Witch, that mutant. Sorry, I didn't mean it. No, she's not. That's not what I said.
Fox. Fox cops, like, over here.
You know what I mean? It's like, where is she training?
20th century logo.
Didn't they show at the end of one of these? Was it the Avengers 2? It was, right?
Yeah, at the end of the second Avengers. So, and
what kind of stupid fucking movie she doing, man? Let's get to that. When like fucking Crossbones or whatever his name is, Rumlow, when he like explodes with that fucking dynamite and Cap's too stupid to see what's going on because he's just hung on his homeboy's Johnson.
He said Bucky, and all of a sudden that was 14 Brooklyn.
16. Yeah, but So she grabbed like the force and like threw it like up. Like why throw it anywhere? Did she have to do that? She couldn't just hold it?
Yeah, she was containing an explosion. That shit is hard to do, man.
Cap did it with a shield in his hand later in the movie.
That was one of those self-destructive bombs that's designed to take out a city block. And shit is hard.
I can move things with my mind. Like, how do we not know that she can't just hold that shit and do something with it? Like, don't just throw it up this building. Like, that was a stupid decision. And that's why, like, I agree with the guy on the news, like, who was talking shit. Like, what? Who the fuck says she can just be a superhero? You can't just let her over here. Well, look what she did. Like, she's awesome, but she's crazy.
I mean, I'm very anti-Scarlet Witch dating back to the last time we saw her from Age of Ultron, but it seems like you want like a trading card, like report card system on what these guys are and aren't allowed to do. Well, you know, she's weird in that moment that it was incredibly difficult for her to contain a guy jihading himself. So she tried to get that explosion away from people. And it just went off before she can get it clear.
I think she let go of it because she couldn't hold it that far away. Because who the fuck can just hold it that far? Like, because that's insane. You had to be like training somewhere with the X-Men to throw it above a 600-foot building. Be like, is everybody okay? That's some Jean Grey shit right there.
Canonically, you're meant to understand that this film happened along the same lines of the timeline for Avengers Age of Ultron, so it's been like 2015 since that happened. So this is legit a year later, and they've been, training. Like you understand that this isn't really their first mission. Yeah. So they've been hunting Rumlow and doing all kinds of other Avenger stuff. So yeah, they had take your places. They had some teamwork going on.
Maybe they didn't put 1992 on the font. But I thought I have everything written down. They went to Queens with giant font. They went to Berlin with giant font.
No, I'm saying since Age of Ultron, not since like the first title card. But this is our opening fight sequence of the movie after 1991, where we see, real quick, let's detail that Bucky straight up murders the shit out of Tony Stark's parents because they were just had the super soldier serum in the trunk of their car going home from whatever trip.
And 13 movies later, like when they make Iron Man 14, we're gonna see like more and more bits and pieces of the information about Tony Stark's dad. We just don't know who it's gonna be
or something. But yeah, this is just a random Avengers mission where they're trying to thwart a terrorist attack by a guy who they helped create, and Brock Rumlow and Crossbones. As far as how this movie shot, I feel like the choreography took a step down for the fight sequences, especially. I think they went back to like some kind of Jason Bourne shaky cam as opposed to like tight one shots that they had in the Winter Soldier, and mainly Black Widow. Scarlett Johansson is the culprit. In fact, I hesitate to say Scarlett Johansson because she's not really in a lot of her fight scenes. Her hair's in there, but not her face and eyes, and the rest of her.
But as a character, she was doing some badass work in that movie.
I mean, there are so many ways to put your thighs around somebody's ear and elbow them in the head. And she has mastered all 25 of those ways. She's the queen of scissor kicking somebody to the ground.
She seems to be one of the best humans just overall. Like, she's like anybody who's not like super enhanced in any way. Like, she seems to be whooping ass on him. Like, she can't beat up Rumlow, who's something happened to that guy at the end of that movie.
She's
was
got
he any
like
stronger, or was it just that suit? He had a lot of padding on, but he was whooping her ass.
Crossbow? Yeah. Well, I mean, he threw her into a tank and then killed 2 of his own guys for no reason.
That was pretty awesome. How she got out of that? Yeah, she's such a champ, dude. She's one of my favorite characters. I just, you know, on a scale of like Earth to the universe, I wouldn't take her off planet Earth. Like, nah, you just stay here. We're good. Kick some ass.
Batman utility belt style wrist rocket thing with multiple versions of tasing people is pretty versatile. You know, like that thing has a bunch of different settings from
every new time
stopping
you
the
see
king
it.
of Wakanda to slightly paralyzing people.
Stopping or slowing down?
It looks like it was like a game of tag or like duck duck go, red light green light type thing, where he's like just pissed off for 5 seconds and then you have to retase him in order to get him to stop.
And 5 seconds was all it took for them to get off the ground. Fucking amazing. It's those Quinjets, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of Black Panther, that scene where he just like gives up, like after he catches up to Bucky and Cap.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would have ran away.
Everybody and their bullets showed up.
It's his suit is made of vibranium. It is bulletproof. I'm out of here.
And then War Machine showed up, man. Like, I owe you an apology, by the way. Bucky Barnes is fast as fuck.
Right?
I tried to tell you
could catch up to that guy.
I don't know why.
Why did he get on the motorcycle then?
Oh no, like they're all slower than the Black Panther. But yeah, he's way too fast. That was a pretty crazy foot chase.
Wait, they're all including who? Not Bucky.
Yeah, Cap, Bucky, and Black Panther were all involved in that foot chase.
Yeah,
and my God, they were haul-assing. Elbows and assholes.
And nobody could catch Bucky. Hold on, it sounded like you were saying that like everybody was slower than Black Panther. Bucky wasn't.
Yeah, no, he was.
No, that why
did he got on the motorcycle in the first place?
Why did Black Panther catch a ride with Captain America then?
Huh? Because he got strangled and thrown off a bicycle.
No, that was before that.
There were a lot of crazy sequences that happened in that scene.
I watched the movie today, bruh. All right.
Okay.
Bucky Barnes was the fastest guy there.
What happened to shake him in the first place?
What do you mean?
They were knifing through traffic on foot, and then before the motorcycle, who just overtly gets murdered, and he told Captain America earlier in the movie, he's like, "I'm not going to kill anybody. You murdered the fuck out of the guy on the bike. You can't just go from 60 miles an hour to moving backwards."
A lot of people.
A
lot of people got murdered in this movie.
Yeah.
But one of them was Tony Stark. Did it seem weird to you at all that like they made a big scene about War Machine falling with no power? And I get it. That's fucking scary. Like, I don't know what the padding is like in those things, but I don't know that they're made to just fall, like free fall, like 1,000 feet. That seems like a lot. But no one seemed to give a fuck anytime they fought Iron Man. Everyone tried to kill him. Scarlet Witch threw like 15 cars at him.
Yeah, and what did Friday say? Friday, his computer system, multiple contusions detected. Yeah, it detected that too. Yeah, it feels like it hurt.
Yeah,
feels like it hurt.
God damn. I mean, like the worst happened to him. It just they didn't seem to focus on it for whatever reason. They tried to kill him in that scene at the end of the movie.
Yeah, they roughed him up pretty bad. I mean, a lot of people took some pretty hard falls, like going back to the beginning, Captain America getting blown out of a fucking building, flipping onto on whatever that was, and then bouncing onto the street.
Yeah,
like everybody takes a pretty nasty fall in this one. The elevator shaft he gets knocked into. Yeah.
And Cap is mean in battle. Like, do you see what he does to these? Do you remember that guy who was like on top of a Jeep or something? He ran up to him and jumped and did like a drop kick to his chest, and then he flew like 60 feet and landed like just into a brick wall. It was like that dude died twice.
They're a fan of the flying knees in this one. Let's see. We outlined your team for Captain A, but on the side of pro registration, I didn't.
Let's get back to that. Yeah, who's on each team, man? I feel like we skipped this.
No. We got through Captain America. It's Winter Soldier, Falcon, Scarlet Witch, Hawkeye, who cameos in this movie, and Hawkeye in small doses. Really good character. I liked every time he was on screen.
I feel the same way about about Falcon. Like he does some pretty badass shit until his fight with Spider-Man. I feel like he kind of got his ass whipped.
Well, he was thoroughly upgraded this movie, and oh yeah, that's right. We were talking about his equipment. How you thought that was him doing it himself? No, this all smells like Stark Tech to me. The whole shield thing that he did, and right into the anti-personnel missiles with the people shooting at him.
That dude's got a lot of time on his hands to become.
It just smells like a Tony Stark interface.
How do you have time to upgrade other people's armor? Tony Stark. You know what I'm saying? He never sleeps. I'm upgrading this guy's armor. Like, what about yours, Tony?
This will get me to the Tony Stark part of the argument. Yeah, he's nothing if not incredibly worried about threats beyond the horizon. So he wants everybody to be better. All of the emotional appeals that he makes to Captain America revolve around him trying to get you to keep the Beatles together, man. Stop trying to break this team up. We're going to need everybody here.
That's that bullshit.
For the end of the goddamn world.
Scarlet Witch, Scarlett Johansson. God damn it. Black Widow. She said that same shit. Like, why are you trying to break the team up? It's like, no, you did that shit before you agreed on your own terms to sign this thing. We didn't do this as a unit. You just took votes. I mean, no, it's total opposite. We didn't do this as a unit. They did this individually. You just turned in your fucking... I guess it's the same thing.
Well, they had 3 days to sign the accords because they were meeting in Vienna. This, of course, is the explosion that kills T'Chaka, the king of Wakanda. And it was, they were given the ultimatum of, and Natasha Romanoff asked, like, well, what do you guys do if we come up with something that you don't agree with? And he says, retire. You guys do not fight crime anymore. So yeah, like, okay. Here's my argument for a middle ground. Fucking sign the accords, Captain America, everybody on his side. Sign the accords, and then go with Iron Man's plan of, we'll make amendments and addendums and fucking revisions. And I'm Iron Man. I can literally hack into everybody's everything. We'll figure this out. Just don't be an asshole right away.
Yeah, they could have got there if they would talked about it, but they didn't talk about it at all.
The most heartbreaking scene in the movie is when they're in that interrogation room waiting for Bucky to talk to the psychiatrist to figure out his goddamn mental state, and Tony makes another plea to him, like shows up with the pen that signed the fucking peace treaty from World War whatever.
1941.
He almost got Captain A to sign. And what the thing that turned Captain America around was Wanda. Yeah, and I really didn't think that would have been that much of an issue because it's not like Wanda's a prisoner, She's shacked up with Vision, her new boyfriend.
What were his
comfy
words?
Mansion.
What were his words? He said she's being held in the compound or something like that.
Yeah, the big screen TV. It's a very comfortable place.
It's totally against their will. It's 100% like.
No, she didn't know that she wasn't allowed to leave until she tried to go to the store. Like, alternatively, we can order a pizza.
Oh, Vision.
Yeah. Like she did not know that she was being interned.
Well, yeah.
Until
okay.
It became a thing.
But that makes
is this like a nobody
sense.
Puts baby in corner kind of thing? Because like. Just sit it out for a second. Just wait for shit to calm down. And you could see that Iron Man. And I'm really coming around to both of these guys being really good actors.
Which kind of, but see, he's how the fuck old is Robert Downey Jr.? How much longer is he going to be willing to do this?
Well, when you compare him to his de-aged CGI self, and you can tell that the technology isn't there yet. He did not look like, fuck. Why am I forgetting?
They rounded out his face.
Ego of the Living Planet, Kurt Russell. Yeah, he did not look like Guardians of the Galaxy 2 Kurt Russell. He looked very, very downy with no neck wrinkles. It was weird. It was very weird.
And then when they showed him afterward, it's like he had aged like 39 years. It was ridiculous.
30,000 years. Yeah, it was strange. But yeah, that scene especially where randomly Captain America just feels like Wanda is being interned because what was the sentence that set it off? Yeah, we'll look at getting you and Wanda reinstated, and he goes, Wanda, and Cap like, yeah, no big deal. She's chill. She's fine. Everything's okay. Sign the goddamn papers.
He's totally holding her prisoner against her own will.
Do you really
If that
feel
doesn't
that way?
sound redundant,
Honestly,
yes,
feel that way.
He even felt that way when he did that line. He was like, just just whatever, just fucking sign it, just sign it.
No, he didn't. Whatever it. He said she's a fucking nuclear. Like they don't grant visas to weapons of mass destruction. Give me a break.
You have
Let
to
me figure this out.
Like that. It's just that too. It's like, how do you just try to imprison something like that you don't even understand? Like, you're gonna push this bitch beyond what she knows she can do.
Is worse. Okay,
is it? You're becoming one of her enemies. What the fuck is wrong with you? Don't you want her on your side? Excuse me, you're gonna turn your back on this bitch? Did you see what she can do in the Avengers 2, Age of Ultron? And this movie. Even though sucking out the gas out of a building seems like a weird ability, what kind of telekinesis allows you to do that shit? Suck the gas out, like,
makes sense. I get it.
Way overpowered.
After Iron Man, it's Black Widow taking a side that you wouldn't think that she would take. I think it's Falcon who says, "Weren't you the same woman who told the government to kiss her ass like a few years ago?"
Yeah, well, she's got the cock eyes in this movie. It's very like clear where she's looking in like two different directions. So maybe she just,
That is true. She does flip flop a bit, and it's because she owes Cap a favor and is generally, playing both sides. In fact, she's being the most level headed because these are all friends here, and they're trying their damnedest to fucking make things impossibly hard on each other. The Vision.
I think once Nick Fury's gone, they just broke up the team, man. Nobody knows what's going on anymore. We can't trust Tony Stark because this guy created Ultron. Who the fuck cares what he has to say? I mean, I know he's smart as hell, but okay. So when they were showing like the clips of like of only the bad things the Avengers did, it's like I was just like, okay, alien invasion, totally, Tony's fault, right? And then it was just like, they showed the floating island, and I was like, I think that might be 100% Tony's fault.
It's all Tony, yeah. The aliens was more, Loki, Thor, and Thor's not around to blame for that one. But the whole stepping on people, that's a problem.
They could just try to wage war with another planet, Try to go to war with the, where's it called? Where are they from? Loki, Thorland.
Oh, the Shatari?
No, where's Thor from?
Oh, Asgard. Yeah. I'm sorry. The rest of Iron Man team. We got the Vision. The Vision lays out his reason for government oversight, which I think is the best reason for why everybody should be all on the same side. Spider-Man, who's just recruited and happy to be anywhere. He definitely would have fought for Captain America if he got to him first.
100%.
The Black Panther just has a murder boner for the Winter Soldier, and War Machine is a government shill. So he will do whatever the Secretary of State demands. And you raised the point earlier that T'Challa, the Black Panther, should have ran away when all the cops drew their weapons. Everybody was at a standstill, and the War Machine showed up. Mm-hmm. War Machine's still really, really scary. He has a shoulder-mounted turret. He's a problem. Just run. He's got rockets on his feet.
Oh man, let's dig into this because I feel like if anyone I would trade on Iron Man's team, it would be War Machine. We do not need another Iron Man who's just more missile muscle, especially at this point in the MCU. Because skipping ahead, 3 or 4 movies, we've already seen the Hulkbuster outfit, right? Yeah. So bye War Machine. We don't need you.
Hey, he had a good beat 'em stick. Did you see that thing?
Did he? That thing didn't work at all.
Oh, he got it hidden. They cut away.
It broke
where it was super useful.
That's what. Yeah, I was like, I rewound that part a couple times, and I was like, "What is this thing?" And he's like, "Is this gonna hurt?" And I think he hit it 3 times with the shield, and then it broke. Like, oh wow, powerful, how awesome. But yeah, I would have definitely traded him because. So who's on Tony's team? So I know you just went over it, but so Scarlet Witch or Black Widow, or just a human who doesn't have, who's really good at fighting but doesn't have any superpowers. Because she could, when the Ant-Man's normal size, she could totally whoop ass on him. That dude, his level of training, I believe, he was taught by some girl who knows martial arts.
Yeah.
right? Like she was good, but like it's not the same as being taught in like a class or with an actual like trainer.
you have such a hang up when it comes to how well trained these people are in ass kickery.
It's Vision. I have no idea what that dude's capable of. Apparently he doesn't, but he's a computer trying to work on this Mind Stone. To definitely want him on my team, except for that part where he shot Rhodey. That part I'd want to check up on and see what's going on. What's going on, dude? Did you get a hard on? What's the matter with you?
Yeah, he became distracted. I'm trying to figure out his powers and abilities right now, but he can project that beam from his head. He can alter his density to the point where he becomes translucent enough for you to walk through him, or heavy enough that he can knock over like a giant Ant-Man by turning himself into a cannonball. All that, just be able to physically disrupt people.
What do you mean heavy enough? I thought he just shot himself like a ball, like. And
no. Come on.
Isn't he made of like
just
vibranium
a human
or
running
something?
into a giant person? That wouldn't work. No, he
wasn't running. He was
heavier.
flying. He was flying, and I don't know how fast he can fly. I just thought he just turned himself into. I guess I see your point, but I didn't know that meant he made himself way more. Or
density alteration.
Okay.
But he has a litany of other powers. I'm not sure if he's still connected to the internet as Vision. Actually, yeah, no, he is. On account of what he did to Ultron. So, yeah, he's the power of a super sophisticated AI with density altering powers, as well as a solar or whatever Mind Stone infused energy beam that can shoot from his skull. So yeah, he's pretty tough shit, but all in all, not completely unbeatable, you know?
No, I mean, yeah, totally. And I think his counter on the other team would be Scarlet Witch, but much more so in like the comic books, because because the comics have been around for such a long time, there's a rich history of what the extent of her powers are. We have no idea in this movie. It seems like she doesn't have full control over them. Like, she can do some cool things, but I mean, you know, like, this guy's a computer, a machine, like, working off an Infinity Stone. He's not like, he wasn't just born yesterday or some experiment. What is she exactly? Did they say they're humans that were tested on, or what?
Yeah, we're still going by
but they weren't created.
When they're in the kitchen, when she's being interned in a lovely setting, eating pepper cash. You need to come around to Tony Stark's side, because that is not what should have pissed off fucking Captain A so much. But they're talking about
what did she say?
The Mind Stone, and Vision says that these things gave you your powers, and he doesn't quite understand what it is, and hopes to be able to control it one day. But her powers still aren't necessarily outlined, and she gives that line that she can move stuff with her mind. And really, other than the when Joss Whedon introduced her ability to manipulate and give people dreams and visions, as it were, her powers aren't really understood too well thus far. Yeah. In fact, I think you have a better sense of what the Vision's capable of than you do her.
Yeah, that's what draws me to his side, dog. That and Tony Stark and fucking Black Panther. Are we forgetting? Because I feel like Captain America pretty dope, and so is Bucky, but to an extent of like their abilities, like they're kind of the same. I feel like Black Panther could just take either one of them out in hand-to-hand combat.
Well, yeah, that was the catalyst for why Bucky's or the Black Panther's even in this movie. That
wasn't
attack in Lagos, Nigeria.
Well, they said it was because
killed 11 Wakandan citizens. Yeah. Our buddy, our mutual friend, raises the point that he doesn't. He thinks that it's hypocritical of T'Challa to side with the Accords, given that he runs around in a cat suit, generally ignoring borders. And even then, when he gets captured with Bucky and the rest of them, he's totally exercising all of his kingly privileges. Like, you get a cell, you get an office. Wait right here, Mr. T'Challa. We will, and like the entire time he's working on getting Bucky extradited to Wakanda. I love the little politics at play here. But do you feel that it's insanely hypocritical of T'Challa to want to regulate the superheroes while at the same time running around the globe in a cat suit?
Yeah. It's like he kind of made that point earlier. It's like, well, he's the Black Panther and now he's the king. And then he just like he also mentioned a Scarlet Witch, how he was like not a fan of how they do this kind of thing. I think he, as far as politics go, he had to take his dad's side. But his dad, they made a couple lines that spoke a couple lines to each other, like saying how what's his name didn't like politics and all that shit, saying something to the extent of 2 people could get more done in a room than 100, which makes a lot of sense. I myself,
unless you need to move a piano, yeah,
still 100, fucking way too many, especially just representing different countries and whatnot. I myself was like recently around 13. No, I was one of 13 people that went to a theme park. We went to Universal Studios. It was awesome. But trying to get everybody to hear the same statement is a nightmare. It's ridiculous. Hey, everybody, we need to pay for this like this. Do it like that. How did he say we do it? What are you talking about? How do we? Oh yeah. How do you do it? How do we do? I don't know how to do it. I was asking her. She said she knows how to do it. It's like, did anybody fucking listen? He just said it.
Yeah, but I feel like it matters who the 2 people are.
Okay, like the extent from 2 to 100 is a ridiculous statement. Like, you can't just have 2 people, running shit. That's kind of how we do politics nowadays.
Yeah. So you have the choice of crazy bureaucracy or Donald Trump meeting with the North Korean leader to decide nuclear disarmament. Like, which is better? I'd rather be muddled down in bureaucracy and have dust grow on missile silos than having 2 crazy people decide the fate of the world. So right. Yeah, I mean,
then you kill his dad, and now he's like, okay, well, fuck it. Like, I've heard about this guy before. He's killed people before, and that's why I'm here. For shit like this, and now he killed my dad and a bunch of other random people he didn't give a shit about. Like, fuck it. Yeah, I mean, how did I feel about it? I thought it was cool.
I mean, a lot of this does stem from emotional appeal. So the reason that Wakanda has come out, and they're traditionally a reclusive nation, as we learned in the Black Panther movie, but because 11 of their own died on foreign soil, they feel that they need to come out in support of the Sokovia Accords.
They don't give a fuck about anything, but as soon as you kill one of their own, they're tripping. Where were you again? Where were you guys when the aliens invaded in New York? Do you guys not get the news over there?
I mean, nowhere. I suppose it does become a problem for them eventually if the aliens win.
Come on, man. How many world-ending events have happened from the beginning of Iron Man 1?
I still say that Malekith would have been the biggest problem, and Thor: The Dark World is widely considered the worst of the movies. Yeah. But yeah, like if he would have gotten his way, that's the end of the multiverse.
And Wakanda would be mad at America for that shit. They'd be like, "You guys let it happen. How come you guys couldn't tell us? Huh? You guys didn't know where we were."
Yeah,
fucking stupid.
But all right, so. I'll raise the example of the X Factor in the comic books, not the original X-Men team X Factor, but the one under Forge and Jamie Madrox, the Multiple Man, Strong Guy, Wolfsbane, Havoc, that whole group. They were a government-sponsored team. Polaris, yes, good job. How do you know this? You don't read comic books.
There was an X-Men episode, all right, where they
introduced the X Factor
in the 90s,
okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And once I found out about Polaris later, like there was, you know what's a really good cartoon actually? Wolverine and the X-Men.
Really? I stopped. But it's decent.
As far as cartoons go, yeah, it was pretty good. And like fucking Polaris is badass. Like, isn't she just Magneto? Girl?
Magneto light. Like, yeah.
Is she more powerful than him? I know I've asked you before, but not on the podcast.
Yeah,
no, never.
No, never. Not even once.
You're the biggest X-Men guy I know, Trey. You better be right. Don't make me.
I'm pretty sure I'm right. They do weird things with the character. I think she suffers from being a little cray-cray every now and then, but not like a split personality. Something. She has a lot of emotional breakdowns, but clinically, there's a reason for it or something. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, so they're
I think you were saying Magneto's a terrible father.
Well, yeah, that too.
All three kids hate him, but okay.
They're a government-sponsored team, and that worked out relatively well for them throughout their entire run. Granted, they did have some run-ins and disagreements with their higher-ups, but it's totally possible to do a sponsored team of superheroes, especially since this is going to be the Sokovia Accords are under United Nations Council or whatever. Like, it's not just America now. Now it's the world is responsible for needing the Avengers, you know? So I just don't understand why Captain A was wholeheartedly against it. Or rather, I do understand that speech that Sharon Carter gives
because
at
it wasn't
Peggy
all or
Carter's
nothing.
funeral.
Like, I don't believe that they could just do whatever Tony was saying, make amendments to it. I think that we saw later in the movie that they don't give a fuck what you have to say. You're just the muscle, right? After Tony couldn't catch Captain's team or pull Captain America back, he like lost all respect for him. And it's like, it's fucking Captain America, okay? I know I had a slightly better team, but god damn it, dude. It was still like 6-on-6. Take it easy. We're not used to fighting each other. But yeah, dude got away. Like, and like he wouldn't give Tony anything anymore. And then that's when he had to do the thing where he shut the audio down. I'm kind of fast forwarding in the movie. That's when, like, after Tony Stark knew he wasn't shit in whatever that guy is, General Ross's eyes, after he realized that he had no power as Tony Stark anymore, that's when he shut the audio down when he was talking to Falcon and.
Oh yeah. Okay. To go after Bucky Barnes and
which worked out perfectly for the movie.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
You could tell that they're not really enemies. None of them want to be fighting each other. This is just a disagreement that superheroes have a hard time of solving without punching and kicking each other. You know, it's just incredibly sad to see it go down the way it did.
Yeah, well, that's I don't know. That's one thing that was kind of weird to me. Is like, do you remember Spider-Man in this movie? I feel like.
How do you feel about that introduction to him too? I'm still kind of out on Aunt May.
Oh yeah, I'm right there with you. What's the point in having her be a hot 50-year-old lady?
We don't know yet. Not even in Homecoming is it explained. But all right, yeah, why not? Aunt May's hot.
They're putting just the odd focus on it, but whatever.
Marissa Tomei is the actor. But
I think you know, Spider-Man did a really good job for where it seems like his skill level is, and I'm kind of unsure. Other than that last part where he was kind of taking his job a little too lax and he kind of fell off, and Tony rushed up to him to see if he was okay. He was fine. He took out Falcon and Bucky, or at least occupied them for a good amount of time for someone who's not used to.
Him out. Yeah.
Someone who's not used to fighting superheroes. That's very important. He doesn't train with them at all. Like, he's probably, I mean, at this point in, you know, where he's at in the MCU, he probably is used to stopping burglars, like low key criminals, you know, like people with guns and like people's you know, robbery attempts and shit like that. Like he's taking out common criminals is what I'm saying. Not Captain America. That shit's not easy.
Yeah, and I'm glad that they didn't try to rehash his superhero origin. They didn't have to re-murder Uncle Ben. They didn't have to Norman Osborn anything. With great power comes great responsibility, all that jazz. And it's been pretty consistent in the comics that Peter is initially very surprised at things he's capable of doing. So your constant harping on training. Spider-Man has, you know, always been a bit of a nerd and never really needed training. He's just as good as he is, and he's still kind of vexed why, which is why he's able to retain so much of his ridiculous personality. Falcon's like, usually there's not this much talking in a fight.
He like, says that, but that dude talks shit the whole movie. Falcon too.
Everybody talks shit throughout the entire
Falcon, like, I better not see nobody flying out with my wings on. Like, what was the need to say that? Like, we're putting you in prison. We're taking your weapon and you're threatening us. You're not like again, he's really good at fighting, but outside of that fucking wing costume, he's like that's it. He's like a more muscular version of Black Widow, but Black Widow's probably still better at hand-to-hand combat. I would think so. What do you think? No, you know what? No. Let's skip ahead real quick. What do you think? You remember that scene where the black chick from Wakanda like was walking towards the car with T'Challa, and then Scarlett Joe bitch is right there, and she's like, "Move or you will be moved," and she's just like,
as entertaining as that would be.
I know it would be, but who do you think would win that fight? Like, that's probably, I don't know who that chick was. Some random chick who's probably
well, she's a part of the Dora Milaje. Like, she's just as good as Okoye.
I hate you.
What?
I assume so. She's what, Michonne from the actual the character who played Michonne?
Well, we can compare it to so you're talking about Okoye from the Black Panther. Yeah, we can compare it to the rest of them. She's a Wakandan soldier, a bodyguard of the king.
Okay, so who do you think would win in hand-to-hand, those two?
I'm gonna go by boxing rules on this one and say that Black people always whoop the ass of equally skilled white people.
We're talking about like who's okay, because we kind of went over this when I was talking shit about Black Panther, when I was going, like Wakanda versus however the fuck what's his name, Michael B. Jordan's character, however he was trained. Like, I feel like the way they showed Wakanda was super badass. I'm comparing like Scarlett Joe bitch's character as not just someone who's been, trained and, in hand-to-hand combat, but the hands-on experience she has with fighting aliens.
Yeah, but yeah, she's a good fighter. But a lot of her skills are set in espionage. They're kind of just playing up.
Do you remember in the Avengers when she had Captain America launch her up so she could steal one of those flying fucking machines?
I totally agree with you. She does wicked shit all that time.
Compare that to Wakanda training.
Okay.
Which one involves only the human race?
I mean, you're right.
It has nothing to do with race. I'm talking about who as a character, how they're trained, country for country. If they were both in the Olympics, who should win? I think it should go to Scarlett.
Right, you're right. The Black Widow has thicker plot armor. She wins that one. God, you're so caught up in the 1v1 of it all.
That's all this movie is about.
No, it's a fucking ideological war. Mixed in with them. We haven't really gotten to talk about the Bucky brainwashing thing.
Let's ask the whoever the fuck made this movie where all the money was spent. Towards the writing? Or was it towards all the graphics and shit? All the 1v1s and 6v6s?
How much money does writing something down on paper cost?
That's my point. Where did all the money get spent? That's where the focus should be.
Fair enough. That's
why I don't want to judge the movies so much, like, because they're so for everybody. I mean, if there's something that's blatant about the movie that doesn't make sense, by all means, I want to talk shit about it. But
not even that. I feel like this is an incredibly cohesive story. Like I said, this is definitely in the top 3 of the best Marvel movies, and that's why I think the juxtaposition between this and Batman v Superman is critical to the year of 2016 because they intentionally told the present day told the same story, but this one was so much more narratively concise. A better story.
I feel like I haven't even gone over Ant-Man yet. I thought this dude totally surprised me, this movie. Like, he was so helpful, fucking taking out Tony Stark's armor.
Paul Rudd was pretty legit in this. I think every line that came out of his mouth was solid gold. Psycho assassins or something, I'm told. I'm the boss. Yeah.
It was pretty awesome. And Giant Man was super duper useful.
Do you remember what Scott Lang said after he was done being Giant Man and got knocked over by Spidey and hit the ground and shrunk? Do you remember the first words out of his mouth?
I don't.
It was, "Does anyone have any orange slices?"
Oh.
What does that mean? Well, that was the best thing I've ever heard anyone say.
Really?
Just what does it mean?
Yeah, see that I don't fall for shit like that. Not a
Really?
fan.
That wasn't
Thumbs
hilarious
down.
to you?
It was like you it as a
Like-
line I don't like it a lot. I don't find much there. I don't even understand it fully. It's something you do
Yeah,
when
no.
you're knocked out on camera. You put an orange slice in your mouth, right? And it shows through your lips, right? I never understood it.
I'm glad that you found any kind of context for that because I got nothing. I just thought that was a ridiculous thing to say. It
You
was
just
great.
thought it was so outlandish.
Yeah. He just got done being absolutely incredible, and the first thing he requested was some more slices.
I agree. He was pretty damn awesome. As long as he was like not normal human size, he was badass. I gotta ask a question. What, does the suit just protect him from, not exploding or whatever when he goes small? Like, is there any kind of protection on that suit?
Yeah, I don't think he's bulletproof. I think he has to not get shot. No. Which is why, like when War Machine started shooting at him, I'm like, "Ooh, you're just gonna murder this shit out of him." He swung that truck at him, and that got all the bullets. But
oh god,
I thought that was a water truck. No, you just walking around with a fire truck in your pocket.
That had that look.
All right, so I suppose we can gush about the airport sequence because I do enjoy the exchange of one-liners and banter, and even in that, with every character getting a moment, I felt like Spider-Man took the cake in regards to chucking around the quips, and
As
everybody got it,
unless Deadpool's involved, and then Deadpool wins.
Yeah, and even Hawkeye got to be useful. He had a beat him stick and everything. We haven't met yet. I'm Clint. I don't care.
Yeah, I really wish someone could have updated him too. Yeah, because like he just like Black Widow. It's like don't fight this fucking guy in his costume. He like didn't he fight somebody without the costume earlier in this movie, just hand to hand? Oh, it was Bucky, right? Like he
fought the Vision.
No, without the costume. Black Panther.
T'Challa, yeah. T'Challa, yeah, he fought Bucky.
Yeah, okay, like, and
and did you understand the vibranium in his ring versus Bucky's arm? I didn't know Bucky's arm was all vibranium. Did you?
I'm glad you brought this up. I don't think it's all vibranium. I didn't think it was vibranium.
I didn't think it was any vibranium. Yeah.
I didn't think about any of that either. Every time someone grabbed his arm, I couldn't tell which was overpowering which, because they would just show the arm turn over, and then it was like.
Yeah, you're meant to understand that whirring is him getting ready to do something awesome with the arm, like knock Captain through an elevator shaft or throw a cinder block at somebody.
Yeah, that's what Black Panther's suit ends up doing, right? Is kind of absorbing like energy and then releasing it.
Well, no, that was an augmentation that Shuri made to the suit. But T'Challa put on his father's ring, and when he's fighting with Bucky, he grabs Bucky's arm, and you could see the look of surprise on his face when his ring is interacting with Bucky's metal arm, which leads me to believe that there's some manner of vibranium in Bucky's arm, which I don't think they set up anywhere. I thought he got his arm from crazy Russian scientist.
They probably got in touch with that Claw guy, but I don't think it's all vibranium on account of
or whenever he was unthawed.
Yeah, right. Like when was I don't know what the timeline is for when they tested on Bucky, man. I can't remember that. I didn't document any of this information. What I do know is I don't think that thing in Tony's chest should be able to blow up a vibranium arm.
Okay, yeah, then it's definitely not vibranium.
Yeah.
I wonder why T'Challa's ring did that, and especially why T'Challa looked at him like, what?
The whole thing was weird. Like I should have read something or looked for something online about that, because I'm pretty sure there's a reason behind it. But watching the movie 2 times, I just watched it and I was like, what's happening? Can someone tell me what's happening? Like, because if you're saying it's because he had the ring on his hand and that he was using that hand to grab Bucky's metal arm, you couldn't tell because he had the costume on, right?
Yeah.
Unless you knew what hand it was on. Like, he didn't do this without the costume on, right?
Hmm.
This scene, did Black Panther have his costume on?
No, he did not. He did not.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, no, it happened when
didn't know
Bucky
that.
was trying to escape the CIA building in London.
Okay, so that's that same scene I was saying where he was fighting him hand to hand. Okay, yeah, dude's still badass without that costume on, and even with the costume on, should have just took off when the fucking costume.
Yeah, no, he's drunk from the river of the heart-shaped herb, or whatever it's called. Yeah, no, he's the Black Panther. So let's skip ahead towards the end of this and talk about when the stakes get dialed up to 11. Now they're fighting to kill, or at least Tony Stark is, because he's got a mat on.
Wait,
for our,
wait. Okay, so right
heroes.
before this, see how we're glossing over it, and I don't like how they glossed over it. They introduced 5 other super soldiers and gave them 1 minute of screen time, and they killed them.
In a flashback.
I'm
Yeah.
so mad about that. What
Really?
the fuck? Are you kidding me? There's
thought that
5
was
other
perfect.
super soldiers? No, and
Yeah.
I remember this. Well, I saw the Spider-Man cartoon this one time. They were called like the 6 Forgotten Heroes or some shit. I don't remember Bucky being one of them.
Okay.
But
Right.
but yeah, it was like, well, because they make such a big emphasis in the in the MCU about like the serum. Like after Captain America, everyone's trying to replicate that shit, and they're
Mhm.
just like, we got 5 other soldiers, and they're just like, I just killed them.
Yeah, no, and Bucky
once I
gave
got
that
the-
whole monologue to Falcon and Cap about how they could crumble an empire. These guys are trained in like
They
39
hyped
different
them up
languages.
so much.
Yeah. No,
Like
I thought that was
more badass than Bucky, essentially, because Bucky
Mhm.
was just the guy who was in the army, and then he got tested on. Like these guys got tested on that were already basically kiddo
this is all
Beatrix.
before the serum. Yeah. No, I thought that was perfect misdirection, because that was never Zemo's plan. You got to remember, he just wants to take out the Avengers for murdering his family in Sokovia. So yeah, he did not want those guys at all. He just wanted to show Tony Stark the video of his parents being killed by one Bucky Barnes. Have those two in the same room with each other with Captain A. I mean, Bucky's plan is incredibly convoluted, but to see it pay off like that, he must be elated. That's why he decides to shoot himself. My job here is done.
I don't know. I guess I just feel the same way I did it in Iron Man 3, where it's like they've already used the idea of the Mandarin, so now they can't undo what they've already done. So if they for some reason want to do some side movies that aren't exactly Infinity War related, it's like you can't use these forgotten warriors or these other super soldiers anymore because
I mean, I see
You
what
just
you're
kill
saying,
them
but
so
it's
easy.
not like the Mandarin in that they didn't pay it off with anything. I mean, in that movie, you got Flame On Guy Pearce and Pepper Potts fucking kicking bullets. In this one, you get to see fucking Captain America really try his hardest Tony Stark try his hardest to kill Iron Man and Bucky, or specifically Bucky. And also, I said that wrong again, but yeah. To kill Bucky with Tony trying to stop him. God damn it, with Steve trying to stop him.
Get your shit together, man. Come
So
on.
many names.
We're recording.
Aren't they all
Right?
Chris?
Uh-oh.
But yeah, no, you see what I'm saying. Like, they definitely paid you off, even though they took away your 5 deadly super soldiers.
I'm not hating on
You got to see a crazy good scene.
I think is our next movie Doctor Strange? I don't want to give anything away.
Doctor Strange or Guardians of the Galaxy or Spider-Man Homecoming. We'll have to check. I don't know.
I don't think it's Spider-Man Homecoming needs to make its way to Netflix because I don't have it and I don't want it. And I know the next couple of movies are, but where are we at? So
No, I'm
so
asking
you wanted
about
to
the in-fight scene in the Siberian missile silo.
Yeah.
Like,
That was I thought I liked it a lot. Except I thought when they're doing the literal 2-on-1 scene where they're fighting Tony in his suit as they get him down on his knees,
Yeah.
that's taking way too long. This
What do
is
you
a
mean?
full-on 2-on-1 by these super soldiers that hit harder than
Yeah, but
Iron Man can.
They're punching a tin can though. Like that's like he's in a legit
How
suit of armor.
strong do they have to let you know that Bucky's arm is? That thing's fucking ridiculous. You don't think he can dent that?
Yeah, no, it fucked up his blasters on his hand.
Plus,
tore
they
off
show you
a little
later
bit
in
of
that
his
scene.
mask.
They literally show you later in that scene that Tony's armor's like the armor's taking a beating from Captain America because this dude's strong. He knows how to fight. and you don't. You just have this armor. So it's like, that's exactly what I'm saying is later they show him getting his ass beaten a one-on-one before he recalculates how to fight. But Tony's going left,
which, by the way, I don't see how that would,
and
help.
it's like, what? Like to study his fight pattern. That's how he's going to counter him. What do you mean?
Well, okay, but like it's still Tony Stark moving his arms though. It's not like the suit's like, I'll take it from here, and starts throwing counters and uppercuts.
Oh, okay. So you just kind of mentioned this. So his suit's taking an ass whipping, but Tony's not feeling exactly all that. So so Tony Stark's not feeling that. So it's like the suit's just like, okay, in about 3 seconds he's probably gonna hit you with like a spinning like elbow. And he's like, all right, boom, and then Tony does that part, but Tony can't calculate that, so he's having his system do it for him. But in the meantime, just like these elbows don't hurt as much as it would as if you didn't have this helmet on. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, but I still don't understand why Friday knows kung fu like that.
Well,
and like analyzing fight pattern, yeah, but like he was just his fight pattern was open can of whoop ass. Like there's not a lot to that.
That's the thing. Do you think he's really good at fighting, or is he just pretty good and super strong?
Yeah, we'll go with the latter on that one.
Okay, yeah, I agree. So it seems like it should be a little bit easier to study than just maybe Black Widow's fight style. But then again, Black Widow's fight style is Frankensteiner. Eat my vagina, Frankensteiner. But yeah, that last scene was dope as hell. But there was this weird part at the end they showed. I think it was for posters. They needed that image to happen where, like, Iron Man had just blown off Bucky's arm because he tried to fucking remove that thing from his chest and he did the repulsor blast. But he did that move, and then like Cap runs at him and he just holds his shield up in front of his head, and then Tony shoots right at the shield. He told Spider-Man to go for his legs.
Yeah, right.
They were Everybody wide open, and you and I pointed this out in Captain America movies. He just runs at the bullets, and no one shoots him in the legs.
People just see that face, and they just sometimes I want to punch you in your perfect teeth.
Right? Okay, speaking of face, is outside of Scarlett Johansson being a badass in hand-to-hand combat, she's the only female Avenger, or the first one, right? After that, we're going to go with Scarlet Witch.
Okay.
Is it weird how nobody attacks her in this film? Like, even Rhodes goes up to her, like, while she's while she's trying to save, like, a situation, the bad guys get away, essentially. He, like, flies up to her, pulls back, it's like, I don't want to get too close to this bitch, and then pulls up, like, this...
And so with a sonic cannon, yeah.
Shoot her! What the fuck? Run into her. Do something. Like, you can't
They're not trying to kill anyone.
Kill her. First of all,
okay,
everyone's trying to kill Tony Stark.
In the face. And yeah,
everyone's.
I mean, I think what they do is they assess how much armor someone is wearing, and then go by that rule.
Do all kinds of math while you're fighting an Avenger in hand-to-hand combat. Yes.
Yeah, I can do anything I want with the Vision. I can fuck up Rhodey and Tony. And you were talking about specifically how that scene with the shield and the beams was lifted directly from the comic book panels, and I feel like there's a few scenes like that, kind of like in Age of Ultron with Thor, Iron Man, and Vision shooting the beam at Ultron. There were quite a few like great team up scenes in this one, and it's honestly kind of just in the cinematography too. Like even watching Captain America and Bucky Barnes go down the stairs when they first see that room filled with the super soldiers, like it just looks so damn pretty, the shininess of a fucking.
What is it about that? I feel like DC's not capturing,
Okay, cool. I can make this. Yeah. I think while this movie is one of the last films to have a muted color palette, like the rest of the MCU movies, I think Guardians of the Galaxy kind of changes that and introduces a little bit more color, and you'll see it's make its way into the Earth Base Heroes when Doctor Strange comes around, and then Thor Ragnarok is just a blast of fucking color. But Zack Snyder really, really loves his like Sin City-esque like black and white, and then someone's wearing a red cape kind of 300 style thing. So I think his films look uglier while still being good for a poster, and that's his use of slow-mo and shot blocking. But I think the character or the costumes that they put on the characters, there's a little bit of an aside argument, but Superman,
I didn't like that Batman.
yeah, I saw what they were trying to do with Batman's armor, but even Superman's costume, like, put red underwear outside of his goddamn body. It just looks weird when he looks like a giant blue stocking. I think because of the DC movies are kind of set up to get to that shot. The sequence of Superman flying over people's flooded home with the Superman logo painted on the roof in the middle of a hurricane, like somebody has that kind of time. I think Zack Snyder sets his movies up to look specifically like it's lifted off of a comic panel, whereas the Marvel movies, like that example I pointed to of just watching Iron Man, Tony, Steve Rogers and Bucky like around a corner just being cautious, but it still looks fucking beautiful, like that scene with Cap Shield and then Iron Man blasting him, and they put the slow motion on that. Like, that's happening within the context of a battle. It's happening within the scope of something larger, whereas DC, they're not really building too much of anything. They just want their shot. So I think that's why Marvel movies look better than DC movies thus far.
But is it just the movies themselves, or there's something that's just darker about the DC universe that I feel like I feel like you're making the argument, I suppose, that Zack Snyder kind of likes, like that style of movies, and I mean that's what it seems like. I can't argue so much against that. I really think it looked good in that one movie called came out around the time of after the Dark Knight, Watchmen. That shit was dope as fuck. But so that, and even like putting Green Lantern in on this, like in the spectrum of DC movies and all the Batman movies, it's nighttime a lot. Like they just even like the 10 comic books that are the 10 DC comics in my lifetime that I've read, like it seems like an entirely darker universe. Like it's just something different about, like, I guess if there was an age scale, like I always felt like a nerd about this, but I feel like Marvel's for the younger audience, where DC's a little bit older. And then if you want to reach above that, you have like Image Comics or whatever.
Like Electra comics are dark as fuck. But I've been told that there's a lot more levity in DC.
Well, you got to look at it this way, Trey. Have you ever seen God damn, I feel like you haven't. Maybe there's more Lego Marvel movies than DC is what I want to say. Like, have you ever seen like those kiddie Marvel superhero, like the Avengers shows?
No.
I'm sure you haven't, but like maybe come into contact with it or something. It's like where Hulk is like super tiny, and like maybe the characters may not be babies, but they're super small, and just you can kind of tell the movie's written for like 3 and 4 year olds. It's an Avengers cartoon. It came out like after the movie. I probably saw it say Avengers, and I was like, what the fuck, and watched it for 10 seconds. That's what I feel like DC won't have that. I mean, right?
Yeah, no, it's
they're
the cartoon.
Somewhat kiddish, but not as much.
No, the cartoon's always been for teens. Yeah.
What about?
Yeah, and I did very much enjoy the Batman cartoon growing up, Saturday mornings and whatnot. In fact, yeah. I mean, they're killing it on the television front. They just can't construct a cinematic universe. And all credit goes to Kevin Feige for that one. That man knows how to orchestrate a big picture. I'm glad he found the Russo brothers, because he's sticking with these guys. They will be directing the Infinity War. Jabril, this podcast ran super duper long.
Not as long as the movie.
True enough. 2.5. Jabril, where's Stan Lee?
Oh yeah, Stan Lee's right at the end of Stank.
Can I get a package for Tony Stank?
That's what it was, Stank Lee. Yeah, that was right at the end of the movie where Tony was helping Rhodes, because now that he's like paralyzed
yeah,
from that fall.
That is the longest lasting repercussion that we'll see in the film, and it looks like he's walking around by the time Infinity War comes on. So yeah, I guess Marvel doesn't really have stakes outside of murdering Quicksilver, and every bad guy they come in contact with. Yeah. You see Captain Rogers bust everybody out of the raft and give Tony Stark a cell phone. And what are post-credit scenes?
There's the Spider-Man one where he, I guess, huh?
The logo on the ceiling? Yeah.
Yeah, where I suppose he got that watch from Tony? Is Tony slowly helping him become a super duper hero or what?
Yeah, he mailed him the suit that he was wearing in Civil War.
That's pretty awesome. I feel like you don't have to have the premise that Spider-Man doesn't have all his normal powers that he normally does. Where
yeah. All right, we'll talk about that in Homecoming then. Yeah, I think that's an important thing to note. Go on.
Well, I was gonna say, I feel like let's. You know, I like the one-on-one. Spider-Man versus Captain America. Who do you think is stronger?
Spider, obviously.
Okay, all right. Just wanted to be sure. Like, Captain seems durable as fuck, but I feel like Spider-Man is fucking super goddamn strong. Especially when like he'd knocked that giant van and fell off.
Golly. I don't know why I can't say Steve Rogers today. Steve Rogers pulled a goddamn helicopter out of the sky.
Okay, yeah, we didn't bring that up at all. What the fuck was that about? He's got insane grip.
Looked like he was going to shit his pants and burst the vein in his eyeball. So credit goes to Chris Evans for looking like he was dragging a helicopter out of the sky. I have never wanted someone to not leave that much. Jabril, if you're running for me and you get into a helicopter and fly away, then you flew away. You made it. You got away. I don't care how much super strength I have. I'm not going to try to yank that thing back to the ground. He almost got his head chopped off twice.
Technical difficulties. Trey, what happened, man? You dropped out. I dropped out.
I'm sorry. I got my head cut off by a helicopter rotor and dropped the call.
You don't have those super biceps, bruh.
I guess not. You were telling me in the intermission that you have a problem with one Sharon Carter. Other than her committing treason every time she talks to Captain America, what's wrong with her?
Well, I like the fact that she's helping them out and whatnot in their plight, but I mean,
okay, there's helping them out, bordering on aiding and abetting to, here's all the weapons you'll need, and here's the room you can go to get to Bucky, and here are the access codes to the nuclear missiles, and like literally stop it, do your job. You can't.
She's on the side of good, and since S.H.I.E.L.D. went down, she doesn't know what the fuck's going on, all right? No one knows where to go. You can't just... It's got to be weird to just apply to the only other agency that's, like, supposed to be the good guys.
Jeez Louise.
But no, like...
Doing the most.
What I was talking to you about earlier was, I feel like she has this fucking stupid line that I tried to make sense out of, and it's one of those things, I don't know why it was in the movie, but... She's talking to Captain America, and he's going, hey, so... This is after... Peggy died, and he's just like, so did she know that you were, working? Damn, dude, your forehead on this camera.
Sorry. I'm putting the lid back on some sauce for my chicken and rice dish.
Oh man,
got right up in there.
Oh, the viewers are gonna love that.
Reminds me to take care of my pores. All right. What is Sharon Carter?
I'm recording in HD. Oh yeah. So she says. So he goes, hey, so did your Aunt Peggy know that you were spying on me? And he says, well, she says, she kept so many secrets, I didn't want her to have one from you.
Oh, yeah, I don't recall that one.
Verbatim. What does that even mean? She goes, oh, she kept so many secrets, I didn't want her to have one from you.
Oh, that just means that I guess
like he's
she didn't
keeping it
tell
secret? No, that means she did, I think, right? She didn't want her to have a secret, so she told her, right?
Yeah. Actually, yeah, no, that is a little linguistically confusing.
What
to the point where I'm not even going to try to cipher it out. We'll be here another half hour. Trying to add up some double negatives.
Was there
Stan Lee? We got one post-credit scene in Spidey. I know there's another post-credit scene in Wakanda because the Winter Soldier has said, it's way too easy to get inside my brain and make me go to Murder Town. So I'm going under here in the mystical land of Wakanda. This is no Shuri to see, but oh well, she has not been cast yet.
Which
and
why?
What?
They're going to put him on ice until they understand how to undo the poison they put in some guy's brain, or when they brainwashed him and turn him into a fucking killing machine. This guy doesn't need to be alive anymore. How about that? He's killed more people than he's saved. As much as I like him because he seems like he's badass, like
you're on Captain America's side, by the way. I just want you to understand.
I don't understand why they're keeping him in as a character. That's why I made a point earlier talking about how they're almost the same, him and Cap. Like, oh, he doesn't have the shield, but in strength and speed, like they're not the same in speed. But compared to Falcon, he can't tell the difference. So I'm saying, you know what? They're closer than they are far apart. And
let's just go back to what Cap says. What you did all those years, that wasn't you. It's just what they made you do. So, you know, him being in Wakanda, having Shuri poke around in his skull, sort of absolves him of his wrongdoings, other than, you know, the years of guilt he'll carry around and Tony Stark hatred of him.
If she's going to pull that off, which we're jumping way ahead.
No, she already did. Well,
that's what it looks like, I suppose.
Alerts for Black Panther. Yeah, it looks like he's okay. It looks like he made it out. I mean, I don't know. Try saying freight car, Vaseline, 1991.
Benign.
Benign. What's the other words? Toy box.
Lincing.
It all sounded like a...
Mission report. December 16, 1991.
That was a very menacing kill he got on the first guy. You know, he turned the stick off to really iterate his point.
And it was so cool. That
one thing from you, buddy.
Right? I'll let you live. El Hydra.
El Hydra.
That's just so badass. Just fuck you. I'm not telling you. Not telling you shit about that day. I don't want fucking. But
if I could have the wherewithal if I'm ever robbed to get out of Hail Hydra right before I get beaten to death. That'll be my goal.
Dude, it's like the NWO, man. When you're in that shit, it's for life. And even though Hydra fell,
right?
It's all for the greater good.
Just tell me what happened that day, man.
It's what like, it's like the whole Rumlow thing. Like when he told that guy, he's like, "Where do we meet up with you?" And he's like, You're not going to meet up with me. I'm going to go act like I can beat this guy's ass because I have this super powered fisticuffs.
Wrist rocket.
Yeah.
Are we missing a post-credit scene? Wakanda, Spider-Man, and something else, right?
How many credit scenes do you think there are?
There were 3 this time around.
There's 2. Let's see. The next movie we're going to... We got to give our reviews on this. So, Trey, so you side with Tony Stark on the Pro-Registration Act? You bastard. How dare you?
Like I cited with the X Factor comment, there's totally a way that you can regulate, make them answerable to a body of people.
I feel like you're right, but who
wants not to... SHIELD. It's not Hydra. It's not the World Security Council. It's 117 nations. And yeah, you gave the great example of bureaucracy being an asshole, but you got Tony Stark on your side, man. He's got to figure out a way to make everything tippy top on the level.
But he makes a lot of bad first decisions. He's constantly going whoops, and one of them was a whole movie.
Look, there's downsides to being completely autonomous and going the Captain A road. Well, specifically a body count, bringing a fucking teenage wizard into a war zone and having her blow up a 3rd story. Like, let's go with the Visions plan and say that oversight is not something that can be dismissed outright.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. I feel like out of the 2 characters that
so you agree with me? All right.
Yes. No, we're not done. Oh, well, I agree it's a good point. I'm sorry. I wanted to ask you, so if Thor and Hulk were here, Hulk would be on Tony's side. And
what? No. In fact, Natalie even says that. Tony says, wish we had a Hulk on our team. Any chance of getting the green guy? And I was like, do you really think he'd be on your side? And Tony just smiles like, no.
She said that to Tony.
Not even a little bit.
In my head, I thought she was. I mixed that up. I thought she was talking to
Cap. No.
Why
I
would
mean,
she?
just think about it. Why would
No,
Banner ever be on
What are you talking about?
pro-government side?
Did you not see the last movie we talked about where like this guy clearly doesn't like hearing about how many people he smashes? He doesn't like going Hulk.
Oh yeah, he doesn't
total-
like being a superhero. Period.
Uh-huh.
He's not a fan of it. He just acknowledges that there's situations where you might need him. But if this were up to him, he would go the Hawkeye road and retire. Like this is this is not his ball game.
I guess is what he ended up doing. But okay, so Thor, which he shouldn't
Thor
have
loves
to, but
fight and doesn't really understand world government. So I'm gonna say he's on Captain A's side, but only because he knows that he gets to fight tanks.
That's
and
not fair.
everything the government can throw at him.
See?
He sides with Tony.
We go back.
Captain.
We go back to what I was saying, which I'm on Cap's side, but I think Tony had the better team. Now, if they got Thor on Cap's team, they tip the scale. That's it. I feel like that overpowers what we know that the Vision can do. Because I was talking earlier about how I think one of the major downfalls is the two overpowered characters are there's one on each team. There's Scarlet Witch and there's what's his name? Vision. And Vision, I'm going to argue, has more control over his powers, and it's more clear that he's better with them than she is. He's not the one who killed a bunch of people.
But
you
would let that go, man.
If I want to be on the winning team and wanted to survive and thought that, I say wanted to survive because I think going into this battle, a lot of them thought they were going to die, because there were several moments where they just flipped out. Like, I know Cap doesn't want to kill anybody, but he looked like he was ready to kill Tony. Like that scene, like
at the end,
yes. When he was like, okay, after he broke his fucking thruster and he was trying to save his friend, he was just like, "Stop killing my friend!"
Yeah, when he
Tony
lodged
was like,
the shield in his chest.
Even Tony put his hands up like he thought he was going for the neck with the shield. He also grabbed Tony while he was trying to, fly away and threw him. Didn't matter where. He didn't know. It didn't matter to him where he threw him. He threw him against like this giant lip on the fucking wherever they were in that silo, and it like, I don't know why it didn't break Tony's neck. I
don't know if you've ever seen a $1 Million Baby with Hilary Swank, but she, spoiler alert, she dies at the end of that movie. And it's because they're putting a little stool under the ring to whatever. She breaks her neck on a stool because you can't land like that and be okay.
Exactly.
So, essentially, they took the same fall, and it didn't work out for somebody not in armor. So yeah, we're gonna say that whatever little neck padding that he had saved him from being roadie, so that they're both helping each other.
Captain America, god damn it! Yeah, so like I'm saying, other than that part where he broke Tony's that chest piece, I guess that powers the suit. It looked like he was trying to kill Tony. He was fed up with trying to stop this guy the hard way.
There's no winners in this civil war. Like, even while this fight is happening, there's a monologue going over it of Zemo talking about how he's won. Like, even Everett Ross, that character from the Black Panther movie, the white guy, not to be confused with Thaddeus Ross, who's also in this movie. He's talking about all your plans and machinations for what? For nothing. You lost. And Zemo's like, but did I? Did I really lose? Because he got exactly what he wanted out of it. Those two guys fucked each other up, and the Avengers are no more. So in his mind, there will never be another Sokovia.
Which kind of had me asking the question near the end of the movie. So it seemed like from what they were showing on the film, Ross was showing everybody, or the Secretary of State. Is that the same guy from Hulk, right? No?
Yeah.
That's the same character, right?
Yeah, Thaddeus Ross is from the Hulk. Everett Ross is from the Black Panther.
Okay. When like they were showing just a bunch of like video footage of like Hulk just tearing shit up just to like beat the bad guys. What about when you sent the heroes to fight the other heroes? Like Accords, did you guys approve this battle? Because you realize you're sending good guys against good guys. Like, the same thing's happening. How many countries did they destroy in this movie trying to stop Captain America from catching Zemo?
Fought an unevacuated airfield.
The fact that Tony registered, like, what changed? Nothing at all. They still destroyed the same amount of property they would have before that. When Vision stopped everybody from leaving, like while they were all running.
Yeah,
like,
it's going to be hard to buff out that dent in the concrete.
It went in the earth. Like, I thought, like, I'm pretty sure there's just water under there now.
Yeah, man. There's no winners. There's no winners.
Christ. But even he, as Vision, couldn't contain himself. Like, he had to shoot a beam that powerful. It's crazy. Yeah. This whole movie's nuts. There was this scene where Scarlet Witch, it looked like when she threw him through the floor.
Mm-hmm.
That, like,
yeah, when Tony gets home, he's going to be upset about that.
By the way. But, no, like, when she, like,
who's
grabbed
putting
him.
Coffee grounds in the sink? Am I running a bed and breakfast for a biker gang?
What's wrong with throwing away in the sink, I ask? Is that
but,
just gross, or?
That scene that you were talking about, what I believed happened is that she took control of the Mind Stone a little bit and then altered his density to make him heavy as all get out, and not pushed him through the floor, but made his weight so heavy that he could not help but fall through, essentially, until he got far enough away from her powers. So,
and after that, the effect wouldn't be, it would be ineffective, right? Like, after she let go, essentially.
Like, into the parking garage, sure. Yeah.
That's fucking specific. How? I'm so glad that she's on the Avengers team and not, like, you know, on Team Thanos. Or Thanos. Yeah, that could be really bad. We need people like the Phoenix and Scarlet Witch and Doctor Strange on our side.
Bro, we've been doing this for longer than the Russo brothers intended.
Okay, fine.
You can find us
Infinity Warmup at we got our Facebook page, Infinity Warmup at Infinity Warmup for Twitter, Infinity Warmup at gmail.com. This is the end of the Captain America Civil War podcast. We're coming back with, I'm pretty sure it's Doctor Strange.
It is Doctor Strange. Let's shoot for next week,
so
man.
Fun. I'm gonna kick your ass, man, if you don't like
really?
This movie. Yeah.
Interesting.
This movie. I feel like phase 3's got a good start. Let's see. So that's all our social media, and we're coming back. And
you drink way too much coffee. The Black Panther has been a mantle passed down for generation to generation. Who are you talking to right now, man?